All right, wipe the sleep out of your eyes and wake up. This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave, and like your clocks, it's a forward-thinking show. I'm back on the couch after a few weeks away, joined by Rod Beard of the Detroit News. Rod, how you doing? You still sleepy? You awake yet?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
And Dan Wetzel from Yahoo
Spring
Sports.
forward.
Yeah,
Winter's
spring forward.
over.
It's really tough to wake up. You know, you go to bed last night, it's 10, 11 o'clock, but it's really an hour later. I hate losing an hour of sleep.
Justin, you went to bed like 3, 4 a.m. Come on.
I anchored last night. It was a late night and an early morning, but here we are.
10 p.m. Come on.
We got pep. We got life. We start with what should be a very interesting week as NFL free agency begins on Tuesday. The Lions, 15 unrestricted free agents they'll either keep or walk away. And there's a big fish out there. Ndamukong Suh, guys, the latest from what you guys are hearing in the sports world?
I would not feel real good about the Lions' chances. They are technically still involved. I think they're still trying to make a deal, but the fact it hasn't gotten done yet, at this point, I fully expect Suh to hit the market and see where it's going to go. And then you're talking, highest paid. He wants to get more. He's obviously going to get more than J.J. Watt, $16.7 million Watt's getting. You get Miami involved. You get Oakland. There's going to be a lot of stuff. Jimmy Sexton's about getting the bottom line. I don't think Ndamukong Suh has ever done anything or indicated in any way that he was going to give a hometown discount or that he wasn't leaving open the possibility of leaving the Lions. He's not going to change that in the last 24 hours.
I mean, I'm hearing Miami. I'm hearing Oakland.
San Diego.
I'm hearing San Diego.
Jacksonville.
I'm hearing the
Indy.
Jets. There's people with money are going to go after Ndamukong Suh. Do the Lions want to spend that? At this point, if the Lions didn't get a restructured deal done that was going to be, shorter, smaller than that, and try to get him to stay here because of, he's built something here, the defense here, yada, yada, yada. Just let him go at this point, no?
Absolutely. I think if they were going to get something done, they would have gotten it done already. And now that we're at the point that he's open to get other offers from other teams, we're going to start seeing some crazy numbers that are flying out. And if the Lions, who had said throughout the process that they were confident that this was going to get done, and they came out a couple of different times and said, we're confident, we think it's going to happen. And in that case, if you're going to get it done, then get it done. And now that we're going to see all of these other teams that are jumping in the pond right now to make offers to him, I just don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, they're the only team that can sign him right now. But why would it get done right now?
Yeah.
This is the biggest. You talk to people around the league, and even ones that aren't going to bid on him, they're excited to see how this plays out. This is the biggest free agent since Reggie White in '93.
Wow.
We're talking '93, or Peyton Manning a couple years back. Manning's a little different because you weren't getting. You were getting, obviously, a quarterback, but you weren't getting a guy at this age. So the whole league is fascinated where Ndamukong Suh is going to go. Jimmy Sexton, his agent, is very aggressive. Again, I don't see why he would stay in Detroit at this moment. If they didn't get deals restructured, if they weren't going to say, hey, we're going to rework Calvin Johnson's deal and have the money or something like that, why would it get done right
I think
now?
it's terribly interesting that you said it that way, that this is a national free agent. People are interested that far because I just don't see it quite that way. And I'm not to say that Ndamukong Suh is not an amazing defensive tackle. I just think that you can find complementary, not the same guy, but you could find complementary pieces with all that money. So,
well, I think the key, and this is the issue for the Lions, is you're better off, say, instead of spending, $18 million on one player, getting 3 good players for $6 million or whatever, however it would work out. The problem with the Lions is you trust them to be able to get 3 good players, or anybody to get 3 good players. You often miss. So it's not as easy of a thing to do. And he's a superstar that makes a lot of guys better. He doesn't take plays off.
Hasn't been hurt.
Hasn't been hurt.
No,
He's
those
in
are good
practice,
points.
Gets a lot of snaps, about as many snaps as you're going to get. So, look, at some point it's too much. But as we know in the NFL, someone's going to pay too much. So it's not that the Lions are wrong to not sign him. I'd rather have a quarter than 3 nickels. But they're going to open themselves up. But can they do something else? And they need to know, because the longer this drags out, the more they're handcuffed with every other free agent.
True.
And it's almost better if they just cut ties tonight and say, all right, let's either sign him or not, and then say this is plan B, let's move on to it.
Well, in the recent past with free agency, they've gotten Glover Quinn, they've gotten James Ahedebo, Rasheed Mathis, so they've strengthened Golden Tate. They've strengthened the defensive part of that. And like you said, Suh's been the anchor to that defense and enabled some of those players not to be exposed or not to have as much attention because he's able to create pressure, create the double team up front on the line. it's going to be interesting to see if they don't get him back, how all of that impacts some of those other players where a quarterback may have a little bit more time to throw against that secondary. If those safeties aren't able to stop the run the same way because Suh's taking up 2 or 3 guys up front. Does Nick Fairley come back? Maybe they divert some of that money his way.
They've showed some interest in potentially now looking more at re-signing him than they had potentially before. But make sure you hop on Twitter. We want to hear from you on this as well. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave. And, of course, we'll get to those tweets later on in the show. All right, we got to move on to college hoops. I'm a big fan of college hoops. You guys are a big fan of college hoops. March is here, tournament time. The Big Ten regular season came to a close today. Michigan State finished theirs yesterday. Let's start with Michigan State. I mean, did you guys see the video of Tom Izzo here? This is fantastic stuff. Marvin Clark makes a free throw with 0.7 seconds left on the clock. And Izzo can't believe it. If he misses that free throw,
game over.
The game is over. But instead, Denzel Valentine fouls him stupidly here to give him 2 free throws. Oh, man. Michigan State.
The foul up 2, the big thing's foul or defend when you're up 3. They decide to foul up 2. It's a new technique.
It was an unbelievable.
Is there a guy with as much money who has to go through misery every 3 days than Tom Izzo? I mean, there's not a lot of 60-year-olds with like tens of millions of dollars that have to have their heart ripped out like Tom.
And misery, not even like regular misery, misery with your ankles between a couple of bricks.
It's like he just witnessed a car wreck kind of facial expression. He makes it like 40 times a week, and we don't even see him in practice. This team is aging Tom Izzo. He's had some teams that were they kind of rolled along. This is not one of them. Yeah.
He even said to begin his post-game press conference with, "I don't make enough money for this." Yeah, he was joking. Of course, he was joking. But looking at this team, I think you said it perfectly. We were talking before the show. What a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, I think that this team can play as good as a 5 seed, and I think they can play as bad as a 12 seed. Who are we going to get?
I think it's all matchups. We were talking about the NCAA tournament. Yeah, college basketball's got like a top 6 that doesn't lose. Obviously, Kentucky and Duke and Virginia and Arizona's really good and Villanova, some of those. After that, who knows? We've seen Michigan State be one of those teams and not make it. Maybe they can get a run going. They have to play a lot smarter.
I'll ask you this: Travis Trice has, stepped his game up in the past two weeks or so.
Absolutely.
But I will say that Brandon Dawson is still. It hinges on him, does it not?
It absolutely is. He's their best player on a night-in and night-out basis. He's the difference maker. And people talk about X factors. He's the guy that if he comes in and plays his game, and if he starts hitting a couple of jumpers here and there, he changes the complexion of the game with the way he can rebound, the way he can post up. He does so many different things for that team. But when he's not playing well, you need so much more from other players, and they can't get that on a night-to-night basis without him.
All right, we're going to handicap you guys' thoughts on Michigan State a little later in the show. But Michigan, we got to talk about them as well. They got the 9th seed. They get 8th seeded Illinois, noon on Thursday in the, quarterfinals, I believe, of the Big Ten tournament? I don't know. It's a new format this year.
It's weird. It's the second round.
They get a single
teams.
bye, but not,
Right.
Anyways, they're going to have to play Wisconsin if they win that game. John Beilein said it yesterday. He feels his team can be in games against anyone. Do you think that they could potentially steal one here, Rod? Against Illinois?
They had some trouble. They lost to Illinois in overtime. They beat Illinois in overtime. There's a size issue. They've got young guys that are just starting to turn the corner here. It's just really tough.
Well, what about Michigan on a national picture? I mean, I understand that, look, they're not going to make the big tournament, but can they make the CBI? Are they going to make the NIT? What do they have to do to get into one of these postseason tournaments?
CBI, usually, if you're willing to pay, a team like Michigan could probably get in. I don't know why.
No, Beilein said they wouldn't go to CBI.
It's
NIT, win the Big Ten tournament and go to the NCAA, or bust. And they've got to win probably 2-3 games in the Big Ten tournament in order to get to the NIT. So it's looking glum.
Because they'd have to get by Wisconsin.
Whatever.
Slim, glum.
Where's the watch party Thursday at noon? I mean, there's must-see TV. Illinois, Michigan.
That's
Michigan. Worth calling in sick for.
Thursday at noon
in
from
Chicago.
Hardcore fans watching that game. Read about it on debtnews.com. I think that's where we go.
Big Michigan contingent in Chicago, so that's the only saving grace there.
And they're going to turn out for that.
On their lunch break. Who knows?
I will ask this, though. Aubrey Dawkins, 31 points. He's a freshman. The thing with teams that Michigan did not expect to be in this situation, but here they are. This is just the way it's going to be. they're going to be better next year, no? I mean, just simply based upon, look at what the Red Wings have done. Absolutely. Youth playing in a role where they're not ready, they're going to be ready next year. There's no doubt about that.
Right. If all of those guys come back, and Karis LeVert is a big question mark on whether he's going to look at the NBA again or come back for his senior season. The injuries have really hurt them this year, but if the freshmen take that next step, as John Beilein's teams typically do, you can see this team that's going to be a contender in the top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten next year.
Beilein's not going anywhere. They'll develop.
All right. Make sure you get your tweets in using the hashtag 7SportsCave. You can ask about lines. You can ask about, Michigan State. And we've got later on the show, UFC fighter Darren Crookshanks is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be talking about his upcoming fight on national TV next week. That's all coming up next on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.